Welcome to our little chat. My name is Afatchao, and I'm the president of the board of ICPSD.
I'm Whitney Schroeder, the executive director of ICPSD. Today's chat is going to be about agroforestry. So, Ro, what is agroforestry?
Yeah, that's a concept that is a little bit tricky to explain. But if I may just say in a layman's word, basically, agroforest is the practice of integrating trees in agriculture, tree planting in agriculture, and it's so important because a lot of agriculture, as we know it, tend to use it's land intensive, and people usually will clear forests totally, clear land in order to farm, which is good because we need food, right? But Togo is small, so we think that it's very important to start getting people into this habit of actually integrating trees. They do it on their own, but we wanted to move it to another scale whereby when you see an agriculture exploitation, it's not just bare land, with just one monocrop, for example, just peanuts or just corn, but from you could see trees embedded in that.
Okay, so how, in terms of reforestation and restoration work, why is agroforestry important for that?
As I mentioned earlier, Togo is a small country, and then it's already heavily deforested, and most of the deforestation happen because of agriculture, and also because of other type of intensive tree planting, like foreign tree species and other stuff. But what we need to keep in mind is that because the main cause is agriculture, right? A lot of the land has already been cleared, and then a lot of the land is also in the hand of private landowners, right? And then so you could not just go and grab the land for them to restore them into like a sort of how they used to be. Ain't gonna happen because people still need food. The country is small. We don't have too much land left, right? So the idea is basically to get those folks to actually plant trees in the agricultural exploitation, so that they could not just help the environment but also help their own agricultural practices. Because if they choose wisely, if they choose the trees that they're gonna plant within the agricultural exploitation, those trees could actually provide nutrients. Right. For example, there are some tree species that we are growing in our experimental forest. We are experimenting with those. Their leaves, when they fall, they rich in nitrogen, and they rich in other type of chemical that will help the soil, so that they don't have to go and use pesticide or use fertilizers, intensive fertilizer for the agriculture. So it could be a win-win proposition for them, right? You're growing the trees which are going to provide shade, right? And those trees will provide, some of them could be fruit trees, right? But their leaves will fall, and their leaves will help regenerate your soil, so you don't have to use heavy chemical. You don't have to rely on the fertilizers and others. So it's a win-win proposition for them and also for the environment, I would say.
Sort of like the companion planting,
exactly,
from gardens, but at a very large scale.
At a very large scale, exactly.
You mentioned something earlier about how Togo's small, but one thing I wanted to make sure to highlight as well is the fact that a lot of people still rely on their own family farm. So it's not like the U.S. where you have, you do have some big cash crop organizations there, but it's a lot of family farm dependent. You can't really go take their land and make it a protected forest.
You can't.
And ask them to starve.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to...
Just for statistic purposes, if you look at Togo, about 80% of the population is involved in agriculture. That's a huge portion of the population. Huge. And then even though they don't use intensive agriculture, right, you have a lot of smallholder farming, and then you can imagine, a lot of smallholder farming can actually make up of a huge farm exploitation. So this is needed because we cannot revert back to how things are. Yes, the forest land that were degraded and then are still we can still regenerate. We will do those, but at the same time, it's very important for us to understand that we cannot just like you mentioned, we cannot just go and ask people to leave the agricultural land, right? So we're going to have to embed tree planting within the practice of agriculture in those countries. Not just in Togo, but a lot of other countries in Africa need the same type of practices. So
along with the reliance of a lot of families on their own small little farm, can you speak to how this also holds a lot of promise for dealing with things like desertification?
Oh yeah. So if you look at the desertification, the way it happens is when you actually in those areas, when you actually lose trees, then you expose the soil, right? You expose the soil, and sometimes the soil might not recover, right? And then so by actively planting trees, right, people could actually see you could actually visually see that you can actually literally, quote unquote, stop desertification. And I don't know if this is appropriate to mention our documentary coming up pretty soon, right? The documentary we're going to show later on.
It was already showed.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we will have. The documentary, you go and cut it. So, so the documentary that we showed about, the man who stopped the desert, right? Basically, it's that process. You have to actively growing trees in order to stop desertification. And if you don't want to end up stopping desertification, then you better do it now, so that you prevent that desertification from happening. So
because then you can't grow your crops.
You can't grow your crops anyway, and you have to switch to totally different crops. And sometimes, and the one thing that we don't talk about enough when we talk about trees is also they create microclimates,
right?
That can help with help
moisture.
Moisture, and sometimes microclimate, and you can have rain, small rain, localized rains, right? So those are very important as well. So I'm pretty sure anybody who has ever farmed will know how important is rain, especially that over here in this side of the world we use a lot of irrigated agriculture, right? But over there people still rely on rain-fed agriculture.
Yep.
And with climate change, these problems are becoming very acute, right? And we know that they don't have the resources to do intensive irrigation as we do on this side of the world. So that means that we can actually use nature to help us. And planting trees, embed trees in agriculture can be that help that nature could give us in not just keeping moist in the soil, but it also can actually help with the microclimate that I was talking about, by creating, it's basically cool off the climate, which is very good for some of those crops that we grow over there. So
great. Anything else for agroforestry?
No, I'm actually using it myself. I have a small exploitation in Togo, and I'm actively embedding trees in it.
On your own personal farm?
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's exciting, and I'm not just doing any type of trees. I'm doing fruit trees. I'm doing so not just I'm not gonna just be making money selling the crops from that I'll be growing, but also be making money selling the fruit. And some of them are medicinal stuff. I need some of the trees like moringa. Moringa is such an important tree species. You could sell it. You could sell moringa. You could sell the seeds. You could sell the fruit. You could sell the the leaves. Each one of those have some medicinal value, and the value not just at the local market level, but it's in international level. People want moringa, and the seed is sort of considered as a superfood, right? Okay. So the more people understand how important it is to embed those trees, the better it's gonna be for our our restoration and reforestation efforts in the country.
That makes a lot of sense. Right.
So thank you. All right.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, folks.